You've almost lived more than 9 lives. I think your mom has said that you're more than a cat in a way. How are you even here?
I don't know. Um, the I mean, this morning got up early, made breakfast for the kids, did like a pretty epic workout, and then went over to the HEB Center with my son, my 10-year-old, to meet with the Ontario AHL team, who is doing a practice. They're playing tonight. Like hung out with them for a little bit, then went back, had about 10, 15 calls. Here's jujitsu and Gracie Maida just happened. My buddy Shane Steiner just heard him fly away on his helicopter, and it's 1 o'clock. You know, um, I don't. The military definitely does weird things to time. There's not like a regular timeline for a human's day. It is you'll get the stuff done regardless. So like I've just always had that wheels are going to be spinning.
Hmm.
I'm not sure it's always pointing in the right direction, but we're going to be going hard in the paint to the day I'm done.
I feel like my days are split into two, is 6 to 12, 12 to 6 again is like almost 3 days really.
Yeah.
Do you have a process for the way that you think about time? The military obviously had an impact, and even from ranger school to fighting days later, like you've always been very diligent about the way that you approach life.
Yeah. I just don't want to. I mean, that's our only commodity that we can't get more of.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that is. I have learned that there are periods of time that are just more special than others.
Mm.
Having little kids, it's this tiny little finite amount of time that you're going to have. If 1 to 4, 1 to 5, that's it. Yeah, you can have as many kids as your wife will allow you to have, but for that kid, you're only getting that 3 to 4 years. As I'm going to live 80, 90 years, I only get that little kid for 2, 3, 4 years. In the kind of bell curve of being able to make a difference. You do all of these things. You're going to school. You're finding opportunities to serve. You're kind of building networks with what will then become influential people. So you're just finding like-minded people that share values. And as they start becoming successful and you're starting to become successful, there's this window of time that you can really make a positive difference. And that window isn't in the same period of time for everybody. But when you know that you're in it, man, you got to do it. So time slows and time speeds, and but one thing that time never does is stops. And how do you be present, and how do you be intentional, and how do you be disciplined with time, while making sure that you're maximizing every second that you possibly can? Man, that's the question of life, right?
Definitely the question of life. I mean, your childhood, your parents kind of put a Socratic way of learning for you early on.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish it was more put in the school systems. We have a lot of things to improve in this country, that's for sure. Your mom called you, I think, living room lawyers, and like really put you in positions to challenge yourself and get to your own answers. For your kids and for yourself, what are some of those things that you feel we need to be doing especially the early ages, so that we can set kids and people up for success?
Yeah, I want a respectful child. I want, my kids are, when those hockey players came out today, they're giants.
Hmm.
My son's 9. But
Right.
he gave him the best handshake, looked him straight in the eyes, and, called him sir. But like, let's not mince words. That little long-haired 9-year-old's a savage.
Hmm.
And if you're going to disagree with him on something, like, be prepared to argue with a 9-year-old that is going to have some pretty well thought out arguments. Because, if he says, hey, I want to do this thing, and I say no, and he says, it's not that he's questioning me, but he will take a position and he will have information to support his position, and he will be arguing his side of like, well, I I read my books this morning. I'm getting straight A's. I've already taken all the tests I need to today. I have this 45 minutes until I head to my lacrosse or my hockey practice.
Hmm.
I would like to relax. And I think, me being to insert the thing that he's trying to not manipulate, but like
Hmm.
negotiate his way into. You're talking to a 9-year-old, but it sometimes feels like you're talking to a 25, 30-year-old that just got out of his MBA. It's awesome. I don't know why that parents just crush that in people and kids these days.
Well, it's my way or the highway, right? It's like it's you're under my roof, you have to abide by my rules, kind of thing. But we're not even in school. We're taught things that will never apply in actual life. What do you think it is that you teach your kids that allows him to kind of hold that position?
The whole point is to prepare them for life.
Hmm.
And in schools and my way or the highway, that doesn't prepare someone for something later.
Yeah.
Creating a critical thinker, somebody that has grit and discipline, somebody that has the passion to work hard and to take pride in the thing that they're doing. Those are characteristics, and I think characteristics will carry further into adulthood than your ability to take a test well, or to prepare for the STAR exam here in Texas. So I would rather like build young people that can critically think and that have character and hard work over anything else.
Yeah, I think characters everything. Character is more important than skill set. It's more important than intelligence, because at the end of the day, that's the thing that you can rely on.
Yeah.
Right at the end of the day. For you growing up, what your father and your grandfather were both in similar work to what you do today. What did they instill into you? And did you recognize it when you were younger, or was it something that you realized in combat, in UFC, all that?
Oh, I did not receive direction well from my father.
Yeah.
I don't think any young man does from puberty until mid 20s.
Hmm.
I will regret for forever not paying heed, not paying attention, not listening to wisdom. And it was like that was the only man on the planet that is sacrificing everything of who he is for his kids. Like that's the only man that will be giving me everything he has so I have a better chance. 7 billion people on the planet. There's one person that is selflessly doing that. It's my dad. And I was like, yeah, what? Like you stupid, you don't know. As I'm coming up with like the dumbest lie ever to try to cover for something stupid I did. Um, I my grandfather obviously had two, but one of them died when I was really, really young. Working in the chemical industry, died of cancer. And then my other grandpa, part of the Greatest Generation, served in World War II. He and my uncles who went to Vietnam, and my dad, who was 35 years in law enforcement as a narcotics officer, there's just this element of selfless service
Hmm.
in everything that they did. Like they had subscribed and they had believed and they had committed to contributing to things that were bigger and better than themselves. And that was their family, that was their community, and that was our country. That's in 2025, it feels like everybody's just looking at themselves, and that's a really empty life to live.
Yeah. I think the world when you lack purpose, especially young men, as you say, you go towards temporary pleasure and you kind of try to masquerade that pain by doing things that give you joy right now instead of looking for the long term or actually looking outside of yourself. When you were in combat and you were in the UFC, you also were a bit egotistical in a way, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
When did that shift for you?
I don't know if it ever does fully.
Yeah, of course.
There's ego is a thing that you're always fighting to have a healthy amount of it. Um, like I want confidence, and confidence is a portion of ego, but confidence and masculinity leveraged for good is a really powerful tool for good. Um, and egotistical narcissist, completely ethnocentric, that is absorbed in their own success is a damaging force and a bigot, and a and I'm going to do this for me, and I really don't care about the consequences. That's a sad but popular person these days. Seems like.
Why do you think it's more popular? It seems like it's more popular than ever. Like I was looking at the statistics of even just people getting into the military, not even able to because they're not hitting the standards that they need to, and it's higher than ever.
I like this idea of, would you die for your country, or would you die for your spouse? That is a really short-lived and pathetic question.
Mhm.
The better one is like, would you live for them? Would you eat healthy for them? Would you go to bed early for them? Would you not go out? Would you not drink? Would you not smoke? Would you have just an ounce of the Jocko Willink discipline? Would you have just a little tiny sliver of the David Goggins, I don't care, I'm going to push through it? Would you have just a drop of the intellect of the C.S. Lewis? Um, I I uh, I hope that that pendulum is going to swing back towards purpose, and back towards selflessness, and back towards contributing to things that are greater than yourself. Um, but right now, it's pretty inwardly focused.
Do you feel like it was always going, or has it been going in that direction the past few years? Because the idea of having the will to show up like a David Goggins or Jocko Willink or any of those people, it seems like it's not that it's missing, but people are they almost feel like that is just not who they are, and that's the excuse.
There's always going to be an excuse,
Of course.
right? There you can. Um, they're like elbows on people. Everybody's got a couple of them,
Hmm.
and it's courage and fear. Everybody has both of them, and the opportunity to choose which one you're going to, like, the people that are acting courageously, the people that are getting Medal of Honors and um, those acts of heroism, they are absolutely fearful, and they're just choosing to move through the fear.
Hmm.
So right now, this the popular approach of, like, I'm like, my opinion takes superior position to, or my view of even myself, my view of the world, like what gender I am, like that takes superiority, precedence over anyone else's opinions. Like, I don't know how that makes sense. Or then manipulating the collective where, hey, this group of people believe this thing, which then supersedes the individual's rights to freedom.
Hmm.
Like, whatever you think and whatever your beliefs are, like, I can respect you and I can value them. Like, you don't get to project those onto me.
Hmm.
And just for the past, I don't know, 6, 7 years, this mind virus of entitlement has taken over, where I can have my own beliefs, and you have to acknowledge, recognize, and subscribe to those, and then participate in my own beliefs by acknowledging how I view those things. So if I say that my pronouns are such,
Hmm.
like, you have to agree with that. And that is just, obviously an outlier example, but that small little idea goes into all sorts of negative aspects of the human condition. And entitlement is a disease, as is fear, that spreads rapidly.
Yeah, we're in an attention economy, and so because everyone has a voice more than ever, when you have other people that believe in that voice and that abide by that voice, then it almost becomes I guess I don't even know how to explain it. It's like it's a movement in a way, and like people, it's easier to go towards something that other people are agreeing with because then you feel like you have a family, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. Those people might be absolutely crazy. Like, their idea might be like the dumbest thing in the world. And I the checkout window for let me take a pill to get unfat. There's going to be thousands of people in that line.
Mm-hmm.
The other window of I'm going to be disciplined, I'm going to eat healthy, I'm going to get up and exercise, I'm going to go to bed, I'm not going to drink. There's not very many people in that checkout line.
Yeah.
So you can't really just look to where the mass amount of people are going, because they're always going to be choosing the easy option. And very few ever choose the hard. But more often than not, the hard option that makes the most sense and the simple solution is the one that we should be going after.
Yeah, it's like life is not simple, or it's simple, it's not easy.
Yeah.
We know what we need to do, and it's like the idea of saying that I don't have time or I didn't really make the time, but it's a lack of accountability in a sense. And I think something I've lived by for the past couple years that it is that it may not be my fault, but it's still my responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're trying to push away responsibility because we feel it should be easier. Why?
Back to entitlement. It should be easy. I deserve this. It should be easy. I had this type of hardship. It should be easy because I think I worked hard. The view of working hard compared to that objective, you actually worked hard, can be significantly different. You know, the meritocracy of just merit-based success doesn't exist when for the past 20 years, we have been enabling programs that incentivize somebody to be a victim, that incentivize somebody to be elevated on race or gender or the socioeconomic position that they're born in. Like that removes all of the opportunities of, you know, if you look at some of the most beautiful composers to ever exist in music, they were able to write that music because of their hardships and their ability to overcome them. You look at a whole bunch of Medal of Honor recipients. You see travesty. You look at our current vice president. You see a man that was abused in a single income household that is poor beyond most Americans' ability to even understand poverty, drugs, and he's the current vice president. You know, probably going to be running for president in the very, very near future, and will make a great one. But would he be the man that he is without overcoming that adversity? Would he have the character and the drive and the resolve without the pain that he experienced? And we've taken that from people. We've removed this catalyst, the genesis of transformation, like the thing that causes metamorphosis in a human. And we're like, no, you shouldn't have that.
Yeah.
That's pain. And shame on us for doing it.
Yeah. I mean, your book was about a bunch of your failures and the things that you did wrong and where things went to shit. And so you wouldn't have been able to write that book. And I think, like you said, I mean, the things that are seemingly the worst moments of our lives are the things that we're going to get to the end of our life and see the person that we became because of it as the best thing that possibly could have happened to us. But in the moment, it doesn't seem that way. And so I think we have a really short-term vision on life when we don't really see what is this really creating me to become?
80% done with my next book, The Purpose of Pain.
Yeah.
And we're and it is what we're talking about. It is how dangerous entitlement is. It's how dangerous any form of equity programs or equality, even equality programs. Like it's almost seems cruel that I am looking for opportunities to inject adversity into my children's lives because I want them to become successful later. Watching him deadlift this morning, a 9-year-old, and him, you know, his little legs quivering and like, push your knees out, put your knees out, you got this, bro. And for no other reason besides it's hard. That's it. Like, he could have a really easy life and he would be useless.
Yeah.
To his family, to his future employer, to this country. and dangerously so to himself because he'd not have no purpose and no ability to contribute to that purpose unless he's able to overcome those little adversities. Like don't tie your kid's shoes.
Hmm.
Don't get them Velcro shoes. Let him learn how to tie his shoes. Like that tiny little act of small motor function and like, I got it. And the first time that they can do the overhand loop for the first time. And they're like, okay, I got a small loop and a big loop. I'm gonna wrap it around and I mess it up 50 times. And parents get so frustrated. And you're depriving that kid of this opportunity to overcome something and complete something on their own. And then they get to do it every single day. I'm not gonna give somebody a fish. I'm gonna teach them how to fish.
Failure is feedback, but we see it as final. You saw it as final at one moment in your life as well. And I think we need to start seeing it as, this is building me to the person that I'm supposed to become, rather than this is something that should be avoided. And you talk about the purpose of pain, the new book. What's been the most exciting or thing that you didn't expect in doing the research for the new book?
History, learning about these failure moments in some of my heroes, a whole bunch of people that I aspire to be like. Of course, they had all of these failure and pain moments in their lives. We just don't hear about them. We don't hear about Tolkien struggling. We don't hear about C.S. Lewis struggling. We read Lord of the Rings and we see the Rohirrim and we're like, yeah, like those guys are awesome. And then you figure out that Tolkien was writing about World War I cavalry units and the pain and how descriptive he was in describing the saddles to the horses. It's because he was there in World War I. And like taking one step back and it almost hurts when you recognize that the beauty in what they're writing about was because of this thing that they went through, the war to end all wars, the war that we as a species got good at killing each other. The first war that at a high efficiency we could kill thousands. And then we have these beautiful books. C.S. Lewis losing his wife and then writing books around pain, screw tape letters, going to some people that are currently in office, like Joe Kent, who is just recently appointed as, I don't know what his title, Director of Counterterrorism. He lost his wife in the fight against terrorism. And he was working at the CIA after being a Green Beret. And I have profound respect for this man. Would he have the views? Would he have the positions? Would he have the understanding? Of course, as a former Special Forces guy, he has this knowledge. Of course, working at the agency, he's going to have this deeper understanding from the diplomatic and Department of State positions and the mechanisms to pull levers from different agencies and authorities and funding sources. But the catalyst for him to want to continue to serve is the death of his wife. Like, that is hard to understand, but then beautiful when you get to see all of the good that these men and these women do after these acts. It's man, it's a tough life we live.
Pain turns to purpose if you allow it to transmute into purpose. Two of three, I guess. My father and uncle both passed at 37 years old. My grandfather passed a few months before his retirement. So much of what I want to do is get people to the end of their life saying that I'm glad I did rather than I wish I had, because I understand the value of time, but I wouldn't have that drive if those things didn't happen. I almost died when I was born as well. So like the pain 100% turns to purpose if you allow it to. And for you, do you have a favorite pain or a favorite failure that has set you up for success?
There are so many.
Couple.
Yeah, they're usually my decisions.
Of course.
Those are the ones that hurt the worst. Like there's pains of, when I wrecked a motorcycle, that was somebody that was totally tripping that blew through a stop sign and I had to dump a bike or hit him broadside. that's not my fault. That hurt.
Mm.
But there's nothing I can do that I could go back in time besides like not ride. Then I think about, conscious choices as a young man. I was like, yeah, I'll hook up with this girl, and I'll hook up this girl, and I'll not be faithful to that girl, and then the consequences that are associated with that. And we don't think about consequences when we're 21, 22, 23 years old. Like being a young man for a really long time, you had to be a non-commissioned officer to move over to special forces. And during the global war on terror, that changed with the 18 X-ray program, which was the second time in the history of special forces since World War II that they had done that. And then you would end up with guys like me that were young and that were dumb and that were that thought they were invincible, but we weren't. And we died, and we died a lot. That was but not having the opportunity to make those mistakes, not having the consequences associated with my bad decisions and the failures that were the second order effect and the byproduct of those, those were the catalysts that ultimately drowned or swim, succeed or fail. Even in the past few months, like, completely transform and change some business verticals or look at bankruptcy. This isn't something that just ends at some point in your life where like, oh, I'm so successful, I don't need to do anything. It's like we have to keep learning, growing, and adapting. And those, unfortunately, are associated to pain and failure. So that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that in most successful people that I know, they inflict voluntary suffering on themselves, whether that's a gym, a cold plunge, jujitsu, whatever the thing may be.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Yes. And one of the things that I found really surprising with you was when you were in the UFC, you didn't take painkillers when they were stitching you up in any way because you wanted to inflict that suffering on yourself almost to like an extent that most people are just not willing to do. Was that always something that you had growing up as well?
Yeah, I don't want to numb anything.
Yeah.
And I definitely don't want to dilute or numb the consequence of my failure.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing more direct or acute than sitting in the back as the UFC fight doc comes up and it's like, hey, I have to stitch your face closed. I'm going to give you a local. And you're like,
No, you're not.
no, you're not, man. You're going to stitch my face closed. And I want to sit here and watch you do it. And they're like, I'm not comfortable with this. You'd be like, I'll be fine. I won't move. And I'm going to sit there and I'm going to literally watch that guy take a steel needle and shove it through my face. I'll position a mirror so I could watch him do it. And I could recognize that was my own failures. Nobody else did that. Like, that was me. And obviously like that is a really extreme example, but put that out to life where getting up and going to the gym and voluntarily putting yourself through the hardest portion of your day, it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. Like I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to be stronger from this. I'm going to on the far side of this be a better version of me because of it. So like, give it to me.
Yeah, the thing that I've realized is that we really prioritize relationships with other people. Like if you had to be at work, you're going to show up to work because someone else is counting on you. But the value of voluntary suffering is that you're keeping the promises you make to yourself. Yeah. And we think of those as really subtle, as small things. Like if I tell myself I'm going to get up and I don't get up, is something so, as small as that. You're diminishing your relationship with yourself, and that leads into every aspect of your life. And that's why character, going back to that, is such a massive thing. But we undervalue it. And I feel like more than anything, that voluntary suffering, it's just genuinely keeping the promises that you said you were going to make to yourself and doing the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so difficult for so many people. You talked about courage and you talked about fear as two things that we all have. What do you think it is in the people that act anyway? What's the difference?
A little bit of conditioning. I more often than not, if if we pulled back a couple layers of historical examples of people that kind of rose to the occasion, you're going to find that they're not really rising to the occasion, that they have done that in a variety of different ways, time and time again.
Mm.
Like Roy Benavidez, Medal of Honor recipient in Vietnam, gets stabbed, shrapnel, gets shot, voluntarily hops on a helicopter to go to a Special Forces ODA that's been isolated and cut off. Everybody's going to die. And he puts himself in there to die. Like, I don't know if he had this expectation of he is this one guy hopping off a helicopter that, as 12 Special Forces guys have now been isolated and are all about to die, that he's going to be, the one man, is going to be the thing that turns the tide of war. Mm-hmm. He's like, no, I'm going to go there to die with my brothers. Mm-hmm. Shugart and Gordon, Battle of Mogadishu, Black Hawk Down. They're sitting on that helicopter looking down, and the general's like, I cannot put you on the ground because I have no way to get you back. And they say, we recognize that. We have a better view than you, sir. We're not asking for you to get us out. We're asking for you to allow us to go in. They knew 100% what was going to happen. And did Shugart and Gordon all of a sudden become Superman, walk into a phone booth, tear their their jacket off, and there's an S there? No. If you go back and look to who they were in Special Forces Sniper School, going to selection, they were extraordinary people that time and time again had chose to do the hard thing. Mm-hmm. They had been like, yeah, I'm scared. I could fail at this, but I'm going to push through and I'm going to sacrifice and I'm not going to quit. And then when that moment comes, they're not rising to the occasion, man. They're really just falling back to the thing that they've done 100 times before, which is just like, I'm going to do it. You're driving down the road and you see a car on fire. How many people drive by that car? All of them. Mm-hmm. What is that person that pulls over, hops out, and has a fire extinguisher under the back seat? Who is that person?
The person that shows up for themselves, really.
Yeah, that's right. And that same guy, that same gal, if you took a little snapshot of them and looked at the cross section of that first person to stop, you're going to see a person that's had a bunch of adversity. You're going to see a person that has struggled countless times. You're going to see a person that has a fire extinguisher in the back of their car because they've seen fire before. And they've seen the consequence of fire before. And they have the courage to overcome the fear of I might get burnt. I might even get sued in 2025, the way that this world works. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to do it anyways. And it's that same blue collar, roughneck, hardworking, single mother. Those are all different people or all the same people.
Yep.
And thank God for them.
Yeah. We started this podcast with talking about how it's insane that you're alive to begin with. When you think of the things that you've been through, hard work is one of the things that is just resilience and stubbornness is two things that I think of when I think of you. What are the less obvious reasons that you're still here?
I mean, the people around me, pretty much in my time as a firefighter and EMT, my time in law enforcement, my time in special forces, I was the weak link. I mean, I was not, at Jackson Winklejohn fighting. When I was at Strike Force, I fought for the title twice. I did not win the title. Yeah. So I was not the best fighter. And I definitely at Jackson Winklejohn, we had John Jones, Rashad Evans, and Cowboy Cerrone, and Carlos Condit, and George St. Pierre, and Holly Holmes, and Damasio Page. Every single one of those people have more talent than me. Every single one of them. And no different on the teams. No different, honestly, in my home right now, where my wife is smarter than me, my kids are more talented than me, so it's less obvious is if it weren't for the people around me, I don't think there would have ever been any form of success.
Yeah, I think it's also correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel for so many people, you almost have to have a delusional belief in yourself. You said you were dumb when you were younger, right? And still identify with it to some extent, but it's dumb, it's naive, it's open, just having like a concrete belief that you're going to make it happen and you're going to find a way. And I don't think a lot of people in the world hold that. And so they hold themselves back and they put other people on pedestals to say, well, that's that kind of person. That's just who he is. But you're saying here right now, it's like, that's not what it is. I've always been the weak link, but it doesn't show up that way. And I think that's a belief that you have that allowed you to show up in the way you do.
It's really easy to punch a time card in 9 to 5.
Yeah.
It's really scary to build this, and like it's my signature at the bottom of payroll. You know, it's my signature at the bank account, that when you have a bad inflation season like we've had for 3-4 years, where it's like, I'm gonna have to go into my personal saving account to make payroll. Like, that's not for everybody. Walk into special forces selection where, you know, you're gonna have 70-80% attrition. It's too dumb to quit can be a superpower. You know, like, is that blind belief, or is that like a stubbornness of, man, I'm just gonna keep on keeping on until I get what I set out to get? I don't know.
California that was almost the moment where it almost solidified that for you, that keep going, it's not going to happen. And I feel as though the person that saved you had to have some kind of impact on the way that you approach life after it, because the way that he took you out of the water, I don't think is the way you were expecting him to take you out of the water.
Yeah. So a young kid, freezing cold water, you know, just west of the Rock on the north side of Morro Bay, and freezing everything off of me that you could possibly freeze. And then after being in that water for a couple of hours and having a boat come up and say, hey, you can come out, but you got to climb up the side of the rope. You have to climb up with hands that don't work, you know, and a pecker that's frozen inside of you, and toes that you can't feel.
Yeah.
No, that's not what I expected. You know, I expected like a warm blanket and a hug from, you know, my savior. What I got was, get yourself out of the water and come up here as I castigate you for being a petulant child that had no regard, not just for my own life, but then forced somebody else to have to come out in the middle of the fog and search for somebody that's just being a selfish little prick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely changes lives.
Yeah, it had to. Because when I heard that story, it was obviously you're not expecting it. I don't even think you thought anyone saw you out there. You're deep, it's foggy, you're miles out. How did anyone even know? I mean, is it luck? Is it fate? I don't know.
Yeah.
But so you've had multiple different phases of your life. Time continues to come back around in this conversation. I think it's really fascinating because you've gone from one thing to the next, and it's like really built you into this person that's so resourceful, I guess I would say. Firefighter, combat, UFC, entrepreneur, author, like so many different things. What phase of life has taught you the most about yourself?
A great question. The transition between each of those moments, it was really easy to be in the military. I loved it. I loved SEER school. I mean, you could read it in the pages. Like, I loved this. Like, I loved messing with the instructors. I loved trying to cheat. I loved, you know, being a road walker in selection. I loved, you know, like John McPhee, like one of the greatest warfighters at GWAT. You know, like, I'm so grateful that he didn't kill me, but like, I loved arguing with him. And then Ed Weems, my next team sergeant, like, the dude's a giant. He's 6'6", had been in Special Forces for 25 years. And there's an E6 that had been in Special Forces for 3 years. It's like, like yapping at his heels. Yeah. Like, you know, I'd do anything to go back and listen to, you know, Ed or John, or Alex Ortiz or Sean McClure, you know, like my superiors, Ben Rios, Carlos Ruiz, you know, to be on the fly on the wall after I walked out of the room being like, Do you want to kill him? Do you want to kill that idiot? Because like I want to kill that idiot. Because like now thinking back, I want to go kill me.
Mm-hmm.
I could have done that for forever, but I chose to go and fight. And there's this really hard transition period, leaving active duty, going into the toughest sport on the planet, walking into a cage with gloves and shorts to go and try to knock or choke somebody else out, to then this entrepreneur, to then this author, to now, like working to a degree in government in a way that I never thought I would ever have to or want to. So I don't know if any one of those phases from firefighter EMT to, a student to a special forces guy to an athlete to an entrepreneur, but rather the connective tissue between those things are like, is the quad more important than the hamstring and the calf? Or is it like the connective ligaments between that are at the knee that are the most important? Yeah, to be Usain Bolt, you have to have all of those muscles, but if he blows his knee out, he's useless. So like, I think it's the connective tissue of those transitional moments that have been the most impactful.
What's helped you develop in those transitional moments? Like you said earlier, not everyone's cut out for entrepreneurship and having to do payroll and having to do all these things. And a lot of people are afraid to take that next step in life. And it seems as though from an outside perspective, it's like you're going like you have no fear. Obviously, everyone has fear, but what is it? We talked about the keeping the promises you make to yourself. What else is it that people are missing when it comes to just, I guess, betting on themselves?
Yeah, I want to change that word to investing in themselves.
Yeah.
The betting is like you're going to get lucky with success. Bezos did not get lucky.
Yeah.
Tim Cook is not lucky. Like the founder of every single Fortune 500 company did not get lucky. Like they invested in themselves time and time. And Dana White was a bellhop at this, kind of boutique little hotel, and is now the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar, one of the largest sporting companies on the planet. He did not get lucky. John Jones is not lucky for being the GOAT. Gordon Ryan is not lucky for being the GOAT. Michael Jordan is not lucky for being the GOAT. They did the work that was investing in themselves. Not believing, not taking a chance and betting. They invested. That takes millions of little decisions.
I've heard you say that America no longer has the will to win. What do you mean by that?
This is tough. This is a deep one.
I'm ready for it.
The D-Day happens. Storm beaches, we climb cliffs. We pound Western Europe with naval artillery before we run up those beaches. We get on the beaches with flamethrowers and we burn men alive inside of the pillboxes. December 6th, 1944, 4 months to the right of the invasion of D-Day, Battle of the Bulge. The Germans send 200,000 troops trying to separate us from our reinforcements. We brutally fight back, nearly killing all of the counterattack forces, where General Patton can't take enough POWs. He has no mechanism to receive this many people. They killed so many people so fast that the tides turned so rapidly that the Germans were surrendering faster than they could take them in. Where General Patton is going to POW camps, finding the commandant, the leader of the Germans that are at that base, and then dressing them down and scolding them, being like, you get your men back in proper uniform. You get them to spit polish their boots and look like a proper military. This is the opposing forces that were just trying to kill us a few weeks ago, that General Patton is now telling them to have the military decorum, to sit there and stand with their shoulders back and their heads held high. Fast forward, so April, we make it into Berlin. Adolf Hitler dies, as does most of his cabinet in the bunker. We still have the Pacific to win. How do we win this war?
Exactly what you're thinking, bombs.
We drop 2 nuclear bombs.
Yep.
Not one.
Yeah.
We drop 2 nuclear bombs.
Yeah.
We are now in wars that are not against uniformed enemies. Mm-hmm. We're against corporations. We're against cartels. We're against proxy armies, the Hezbollahs and the Hamases that will go in and rape, torture, and murder for the fare of the publicity that's associated with it. Pennies on the dollar, being financed by Iran to do something that now we have spent a few $1 billion in the Mediterranean and the Red Sea since the terrorist attack, since the terrorist attack of Hamas onto Israel, where they only spent a few $1 million in the preparation of the execution of this operation, and then about $100 million in investment from Iran to train them to do this operation. Mm-hmm. So like 1 to 100 ROI of what they spent to get what their actions on the ground were compared to what we have spent to have nowhere near the same amount of impact. We do not have the palate to do what it takes to win. For us, we as Americans we're using proxies. We're paying non-military contractors to do what? We just don't have. We as the American people don't have an understanding of what it would look like to win in our next war.
What needs to change?
What? In 1945, 5 years of genocide, 5 years of trains loaded with people going to places where the chimneys never stopped burning and the trains came back empty. Mm-hmm. We sending our sons on boats knowing that they would not be coming back, or they'd be coming back forever damaged or changed. At some point, we were just like, that's enough. We're done playing games. We're not here to play war. We're here to win wars. And Hiroshima and Nagasaki, those were pseudo-military targets. I mean, they were enabler cities. They were not military targets. Those were cities that we vaporized. That was necessary for us to win that war. There's no other way to do it. We would have been fighting behind every single blade of grass, would have been a Japanese soldier that was going to fight to his death. And every inch of land for us to move to Tokyo would have costed dozens of American lives, hundreds of thousands of more American deaths. I just don't think that the American culture and psyche currently understands the cost of winning the next war.
Yeah, I think in the world today, we talked about the attention economy earlier of like people have more information than they've ever had. And I think having more information on the government than we've ever had before has really skewed their idea of having pride for living in America and realizing what it really means to live in America. And I think a lot of things need to change in the government aspect of things, that's for sure. But we still need to recognize the value of being here and what it really means to be here. And I think we've lost that.
Yeah. What would Americans do? there's some really nice land in Canada. There's some really great bear hunting. They have some moose. They also have some really nice minerals. They have a lot that we could just go and take. They also have pretty much no military. Imagine if we did what Russia did, where we're like, we're just going to go take this area because it's in our best interest. And it totally makes sense from our perspective because it's in our best interest. It really doesn't matter what they think or what the world thinks. We're just going to do it. Like, does America have that appetite to do that? Absolutely not. Like, we're like, no, there's a sovereign border there. No, it'd be killing Canadians. They're our neighbors. And Russians or Chinese, they don't understand how we don't understand that. They don't understand how we don't recognize that there's just a bunch of opportunity for us to take things that would be in our interest. And it's good because we're a country of law and morals and, obviously Christian values. But when it comes to our own self-preservation, I don't think that we even understand how brutal we're going to have to be to save this republic.
When I think of the world, I think of education and I think of the government as two things that need to be just like almost completely revamped in so many different ways. Like I said, there's a lot that needs to change. In your opinion, what are the three main things that you would change?
I would love to see our young people in schools held to a standard. So they're going to be proud of being American. They're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. They're going to look at that flag and see it as a beautiful proclamation to freedom and sovereignty for every person. And we're all created equal. Man, woman, black, white, Muslim, Christian, don't care. Everybody's created equal. And those stripes and those stars are an announcement to the world that we believe that. That's not the way that people view the flag. Some people view the flag as even a sign of racism and this projection of colonialism, and which is the furthest thing from the truth. So I would love that. I would love the perspective of what youth look like, the era of PT and physical education in schools during the JFK era, where you could have shorts associated with how fast you could run a mile and how many pull-ups you could do and how many push-ups you could do. There's all these metrics of measurement, and kids were proud to be like, I'm in this elite category. And everybody it wasn't that the people that couldn't run fast or couldn't do pull-ups or that they were being disparaged, but they were aspiring to be like these others that were honestly that elite group was encouraged to try and help and lift up the lower groups. That's the way it's supposed to work.
It needs to be that way.
Yeah. So like a big reformation of the entire education system and the way that we perceive value. So that's one.
Yep.
Two is our government. Everybody with Doge and like Trump's eliminating agencies, like entire agencies, federal agencies, like, oh, this is like 1/100th of what I want. This is like scratching the surface. When I said when I say I voted for radical change, I'm not talking like slight course adjustment. I'm talking like burning it to the ground and rebuilding some things with the ashes that are left over. That's what I want. Our government have been weaponized against its own people. Our institutions like the IRS and the FBI and the CIA were dangerously close to dictator authoritarianism that were manipulating truth for the protection of the system. That's got to go. Could not be more un-American. So like that entire system has to be like radically changed. So education, and then the government needs to be rapidly shrunk.
Yes.
And third would be the responsibility of being an American citizen. The responsibility. So go back to 1790. There was this collective understanding, me as an American, I have to be strong. I have to be educated. I have to be a provider. I have to be a protector. I have a dedicated week where the government, allows me not to go to work because I'm going to train firearms. I'm going to train combatives. I'm going to train with my community on militia because everybody was part of the militia. Not was like, so in that Second Amendment where the militia portion, that's everybody. Mm-hmm. Everybody had to be in it. Not, like, what can my country do for me, but what can I do for my country? Mm-hmm. Back to that. Like, I am going to be a contributing member, and the aggregate, like the average understanding of every American is like, I am going to be a force that is ungovernable. I'm going to be independently strong. My family is going to be healthy. It is my responsibility to educate my child and to instill them with values of hard work and discipline, which then complement those other things. Then I don't need a big government because we as the individual are being self-sufficient. And then public education is like, whoa, like if I don't do this right, like Mr. Kennedy over there is gonna come in here and like wreck shop. But his kid is already in here, and his kid's a freak and has a six-pack and has like long hair and striations on his shoulders. Like, I don't even want to say anything slick to him because heck, his 10-year-old might get in my face. You're like, because he's also ungovernable.
Yeah.
It's like, those are the three things: education, absolutely, our government, and then just like the general understanding of what it means to be an American citizen. Yeah. There you go. Those are my three.
Yeah, there's so many more, but that's
I could go on for a really long time.
Such a great synopsis of the main things. And I love the idea that it's not a comparison game of, oh, this person is better than me, but it's an inspiration thing that they're driven to go and help those other people, because the standard now today in the world is to be unhealthy, to be broke, to be unhappy, to be all these things, and then rely on external things rather than working on like, what role am I playing in this?
Yeah.
And I don't know what has to change for that to become the standard again, or just become the standard, period.
There's something beautiful about this intrinsic motivation where I'm not doing this for recognition. Like, I didn't go into the backyard. I got land, and the back like 3 acres we have like the playscape with the trampoline and the pool, which is like all the backyard. Mm-hmm. And then on the far side of the backyard, there's the motorcycle track and the jumps and the ramps, my archery targets. And it's kind of feral back there. And, I could hire somebody to bring a mower out and do it. Or one evening, as the kids are playing in the pool, I could go out and we'd eat the whole entire thing. Mm-hmm. I choose that option, not because I want somebody to be like, oh, like, look how hard Tim's working. Like maybe a little bit for my wife to be like, hey, you look good in that cowboy hat, yeah. and jeans. But also for my son and my daughter to see me out there sweating, even though they know I want to be in the pool playing with them. That sounds way more fun. But I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do. And it's the intrinsic motivation in me is like, I want this to be right because that's what I'm supposed to want. Like, I'm supposed to do a good job, not because my boss is going to say, hey, you did a great job and getting recognized for that. I want to do a good job because it's like intrinsic and part of my DNA. My son wants to be the best lacrosse player, of course, because he wants to win. Of course, because like he wants to see his name as like the high goal scorer. But he wants to do it because he wants to be the best version of him. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm very proud that I've instilled that in him. Yeah. Like, he doesn't need the recognition. He needs to know that he's doing the best for him. That's a pretty cool thing.
Very cool thing. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are looking outside of themselves for the thing that it can only be found internally. Mm. And it's amazing that you instill that into your son now, because most people get to the end of their life. There's this idea of eulogy versus resume virtues. And I think a lot of people are looking for resume virtues of the things that people are going to look at me and say, wow, he did that, or he has that kind of thing, rather than what's going to be on your tombstone. What are you thinking about? What kind of character, kind of person are you showing up as? Who are you impacting? And we're going way more towards the resume versus the eulogy.
Yeah. That's awesome. My friend Dakota, Medal of Honor recipient, he has this own the dash, the dash between the day that you're born to the day that you die,
Yep.
the responsibility of being intentional during that period of time. There's sometimes only a few words or one sentence on that tombstone. In that eulogy, it's like one paragraph, like a loving husband, a faithful servant, helped the poor. It doesn't say that you completed Windows something or another and were able to run a spreadsheet using this QuickBooks method. Mm-hmm. That's not on there. Nobody cares. They care about how you were as a father. They care about how you were as a civil servant, what you did to contribute back to the community and the country. Yeah, those things definitely take superiority. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's a big difference between being successful and feeling successful. And I think a lot of people are being successful externally, but they don't feel successful because they know that they're not actually doing something bigger than themselves. And similar to you, what you're doing now is you're trying to change the next generation, not just like what's going on in life right now, but make the way that the world, like you said, we need to completely revamp the way things are going on right now, because the way that the world is working isn't working. And it just can't be that way anymore.
No, but I think it's changing.
Yeah.
We have you kids are smarter than you've ever been. You are, and you have access to information like we've never had. Do you know these didn't exist?
I can't really conceptualize it, but I know it was a thing.
That fellow that flew off in that helicopter, his grandfather existed before there was cars.
What?
In his lifetime,
Yeah,
he went from riding horses and carriages to a Model A. And then like they wouldn't let Shane ride in a car. Like his dad, Bobby, would not let him ride with granddad because when he learned to drive, there were no stop signs. There were no stoplights. And now there are, and he doesn't really acknowledge them. In my lifetime, like there were Commodore 64s and there were Ataris and there were Walkmans. And then we had pagers. Ooh, if I got my home phone number with 911 at the end of it, I was about to get my butt kicked. And then there was like these flip phones and then I could there's these bricks that my dad had. I wasn't allowed to have one, which was the first version of the cell phone. And then there was like the first mobile cell phone. And that was all in my lifetime. And like in yours, AI came since you've existed.
yeah.
This is quantum computing is going to exist. We're going to make it to Mars. We're going to launch people into space to go to another planet in your lifetime. Not a moon, a planet.
Yeah, rapid transformation. Mm-hmm. And it's insane to see how much. I'm actually curious because you're right. Like I'm 21, so my lifetime has been I've had a phone since I was, I don't know, 13, 15, 16, whatever it was. And it's always been this way. There's always been cars. Do you feel like this phase of this generation is where things have been changing the most, or has it always been 1,000 different things going on?
In the past 200 years.
Yeah.
Like that's when,
of course,
that's when, our species really started changing rapidly. Like I argue I might even have some Neanderthal in me. I know they're supposed to have died off, but I look at how fast, there's this Navy SEAL that went to NASA. He's also a doctor. He's this Asian dude. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I can picture him, but I can't think of his name.
I'm going to have a pretty cool eulogy.
Yeah.
I have a pretty good resume, but then I look to dudes like that and I'm just like, what am I even doing here? You gotta be kidding me. So this rapid evolution, this rapid transformation, it has been seemingly been accelerating for the past 20, 30 years. And, the past 60, 70 years before that, from us cruising around with wheelbarrows and horse and buggy to airplanes, to airplanes and helicopters, with airplanes, helicopters, and cars, to telegrams and trains, to phones. Like it just went.
Yeah, it's nuts because I feel like this phase of my life, like you said, AI even coming around for that even to happen as quick as it's happening, and it's going to happen in the next 5 years. Everything will probably be different. It's insane to think that the world was ever any other way, and it's crazy to see how much we're changing.
Yeah, the and the similarities in spirituality of like I couldn't imagine it any other way. There's these two twins in a womb.
Mhm.
And they're in the womb and they're like, "Is there anything after this?" They're like, "No, there's just blackness.
Mhm.
There's nothing." And they're like, "Well, are you sure about that?" Like, "I'm 100% sure there's nothing." He's like, "Well, do you ever feel that there's more?" Like when we're really quiet and we're still, it's almost like you can hear the presence of our creator.
Mm.
Like, and I don't know, like maybe after this, we're going to be able to walk, like use our legs.
Mhm.
Like, why would he do that? We're in zero gravity nothingness. Like maybe we'll eat with our mouths. Like, what is the purpose of like the section then?
Yeah.
Where we're not going to be just telepathically connecting, but rather like communicating and eating using this thing. Like, no, that's insane. Like, why would we need anything because we're fed through this umbilical cord? Like, well, maybe we'll, like, I don't know what's in my chest, but like, it's exercising clearly for a purpose later. No, there's nothing. It's just blackness and nothingness. Like maybe we'll breathe air. Like, what is air? And then obviously post delivery, everything changes. And that first scream and that first cry and the first nurse and that first sip of milk, that first natural suckling, the first intuitive, brilliant, perfect design, intelligent design, where the nipple recognizes the gender of the child and produces specific nutrients to support the development of a boy and a girl, to include the amount of calories that are being distributed.
What?
Yeah. Intelligent design, brother. Yeah. But minutes before that, not even in the most radical imagination could anything else exist after the type of existence that they were in. So it's just the human condition. Fortunately, there's beautiful design. Fortunately, we have faith. And fortunately, we can adjust to transformation, evolution.
We are an incredible species.
We are.
That's for sure.
We've got opposable thumbs too. That's good.
I have 2 more questions.
Yeah.
In 2008, Afghanistan, you were out of ammo, and you've been in a lot of high pressure situations in your life. UFC being one of them is just insane to think that you would put yourself in those positions, not nervous whatsoever. People are like, dude, you should get hyped up before you get in the ring because do you know what you're putting yourself into? What's helped you most in high pressure situations?
Having confidence in the preparation leading up to that moment. There's a special operations truth that you cannot prepare for a crisis after the crisis occurs. Our rising to the occasion is rather us falling to our level of training. Like we're saying the same thing. They're two sides of the same coin. Ultimately, it's the left side of an event that prepares you for the event. I don't know. Like right now, the lights go off, and we see like this guy walking by, and the zombie apocalypse just kicks off. The food that I have at my house is the food that I have at my house. Me going to the supermarket, that's not an option. The medicine I have at my house is the medicine I have at my house. My ability to go into a hospital to get the things that I think that I'm going to need, that ship has sailed. The ammo and the guns, and I'm using a really radical, like crazy example of insert me driving down the road and seeing a car accident. Do I have a medical kit in my car? Do I have a fire extinguisher in my car? Do I have a fire extinguisher in my kitchen? Do I have a tourniquet that will work with my child? Do I have a dog that will protect my chickens? Like all of the things are the left side of bang,
Mhm.
the left of bang. You heard that expression before?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all of the preparation to this event. That's what matters. So I didn't get lucky. I was disciplined.
Last question I have for you. I find that a lot of people think they need something outside of themselves to become a certain kind of person to show up and create the life that they want. And I think more than anything, people need to unlearn the things that they learned from the school system, from the government, from their childhood, the traumas that they took on to allow themselves to show up as the version they need. So my question to you is, what belief are you currently unlearning?
What belief am I currently unlearning? It has been the fear of my life. It has been a motivator and the scariest voice in the back of my head that I'm not enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not fast enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to be a father. I'm not good enough to be a boss. I'm not good enough to be a business owner. I'm not smart enough to write another book. Um, and then with the access of people I don't know, being able to like speak untruths into my life that support these wholly inaccurate untruths that are rooted in like the most baseline fears. Um, I have to unlearn how I listen and who I listen to. Because I thought I could listen to everybody. And everybody's going to have a different perspective and they're going to be able to give me some insight in some way. But there's just some people that just want to hurt people. There are some people that want nothing else besides what's good for them, what's good for their bottom line. They don't care about anything else. They don't care about truth. They just care about them. And those people effectively and cleverly hide behind good intentions, like holding the standard. But like call a spade a spade. Like they're doing it for them. And I've allowed people in my life to hold on um, and hold me back for no reason besides I thought that they wanted to be there with me, but they just wanted to be there for them. It's a hard reality. I've lost more friends in the past 4 months than I've lost in the past 45 years. It's pretty cool to learn who your friends are.
Good way to end it.
Yeah.
Tim, thank you.
Yeah.